Three, two, one. What is happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from NoleGameDay.com. We are here on this not so fun Saturday evening. Once again, Florida State is going to go 0-4 winless before heading into October, or while heading into October. Florida State falls to Louisville 31-23. Florida State had a last 2-minute chance there. Milton goes deep for Parchment. Louisville picks it off. Parchment talked about it after the game that he came to Florida State to make those plays, and he's got to get better with that. So with me this evening, we'll talk about this. Nate Greer, our lead recruiting insider, and then Dustin Lewis, our lead writer and editor. D-Lou and I were at the game, got all the stats for you guys. Nate, good evening. How we feeling? How was the TV broadcast?
No, the TV broadcast was awful. The announcers were terrible. The first half sucked, and Florida State's 0-4 for the first time since 1974. So I'm doing stellar.
Those are some good thoughts, Nate. Yeah, definitely looking back at that first half, it was pretty embarrassing for Florida State. Going down 31-7, then you get on the board towards the end of the half with that McKenzie Milton 2-minute drive. You come out in the third quarter, get that touchdown. Suddenly you're like, all right, it's 31-20. Looks like maybe Florida State can battle back here. And then, the rest of that game, it just felt like the offense couldn't really get a ton going. You had the missed field goal from Fitzgerald. But I thought there were some positives to take away from the defense's performance, because it's been a minute since we've seen them play a half like that. And I'm sure that's going to do, probably have a big impact on their confidence kind of moving forward.
Yeah, I'm not, we talked about this on the Mark Rogers podcast. We're not sitting here celebrating moral victories, but the fact that the defense played so much better in the second half, they came out, they made adjustments, so that was good to see. It just comes, as bad as the defense played in the first half, Florida State had a chance to win that game, several chances to win the game actually, and it just comes down to Florida State doesn't have the players to be consistently great on offense. They don't have the guys outside in order to make a 31-7 comeback or whatever it is to air it out in the passing game. They did an awesome job running the ball, but it came down to a certain amount of possessions left, and there we are. So Florida State had a lot of opportunities to make that game. How did Auburn? I'm sorry, Auburn came back and won. Man, sorry. But anyways, Florida State had a lot of opportunities to come back and at least tie it or take the lead. The defense did their part in the second half. The offense, they just couldn't put it together. So here we are, 0-4.
Yeah, and that's what stinks. I think there's definitely, like you mentioned, Nate, there's positives, and the adjustments on the defensive side was huge, because I was thinking, ooh, Lordy, that many points after the first half, is this team going to kind of just give up on itself? Is it going to put its head down? No, the defense and the coaching staff made adjustments, and they were able to hold, Louisville, and they were strict on, I think, what Brownlee talked about in his post-game interview, that in the start of their games, there's just a lot of too much miscommunication. And we see that all the time. Easy throws for quarterbacks out to the flats. I mean, that was just daggers. I mean, nonstop throughout the game. And, you've got coverage slip-ups, and then you got a wide open wide receiver down the field to start off the game. Just a lot of miscommunication that's got to be fixed, and it's nice to see a turnaround in the second half where adjustments are made there.
Not to refer again to the podcast, but Steve and I talked about this. My point was, we're in game 4. At what point is the excuse of miscommunication, when does that go away? I know they're running different sets. They ran more zone, this game. But at what point does miscommunication go away? And it just comes down to the fact that the guys got to make plays. You're a month into the season, you're 4 games in, you have fall camp. At one point, does the communication get fixed? And there's one thing that when I do the rewatch, I want to watch early in the game, Renardo Green had made a stop, and he was yelling at the sideline about he's pointing at something. So is it that they're not getting the play calls in? Is it that different players are reading different things? I don't know, but we're 4 games in. The miscommunications got to at some point stop, and we got to figure it out.
Yeah, I noticed the same kind of thing with Kalen Deloach. It was either sometime in the second or third quarter. He was just screaming at the sideline and pointing at something in the defense. And like you said, Nate, I don't know, if it was a play call or whatnot, but this defense, they're definitely still having miscommunications. You look back to, I think it was the wheel route that Malik Cunningham threw, and maybe the third quarter they got a wide open running back out in the flat that ended up getting 20 or 30 yards and getting into Florida State territory. So I mean, man, the passing defense continues to plague the overall play of this unit. Really, in my opinion, the first two, or on that first drive, there was 2 plays that kind of set the tone. You had 3rd and 9 with a chance to get Louisville off the field on the opening possession. Jarvis Brownlee gives up a wide open reception over the middle. On the next play, I mean, Miko Dotson just simply gets burned for a 59-yard touchdown, and it's 7-0 Louisville in a minute and 13 seconds, I think it was. And from there, you kind of felt like how this one was going to go.
Yeah, and that's the part that really stinks. Florida State's defensive line. I thought Cooper had a good game. Jermaine is Jermaine. Kier had a good game, but really that DB room really. On third downs, Florida State is terrible on third downs. It's continuous. It feels like it's been that way for multiple defensive coordinators. But, it's still in that first half, it was brutal. Still have been the second half, but the first half, it was deadly. And that's how you lose the game. I mean, it's kind of obvious and corny, but that's how you lose the game. You just can't stop those third downs. And it's really really to the flats. I mean, it was continuous. They were eating up Brownlee along with Travis Jay on those easy.
Well, some of that was they were in zone on that play to Travis Jay, so I questioned the play call. Why do you line up so far off the line of scrimmage in zone coverage on 3rd and 4? But the first half, the defensive line got it was a setback when Briggs went out, but when he came back to second half, that defensive line played a lot better. But whenever Louisville needed something, they picked on the linebackers or they went underneath. And it's hard to run zone when you don't have linebackers who can cover, when you have a couple questions at safety. But, the linebackers continue to be the issue and who these coaches are going after. It's almost just too easy right now with Florida State's inability to cover, the intermediate stuff. And, teams are going to be able to have those, like Dustin said, I don't have the stats in front of me right now. I'd like to see the stat sheet, the drive count. But how many drives did Louisville have in the first half that were 7, 8, 9 plays? I think they had one that was like 13 plays. So teams are going to be able to do that on this defense all season. And it's going to be torture, dude. Until they can figure out how to cover that, 8 to 18, 20-yard range, offenses are going to pick them apart.
Looking at the total yards out of the game, Florida State wins this. They got 453 yards, Louisville 395. Penalties. I thought, Florida State did a pretty good job if we're looking at that front. Adjustments from last week and throughout the season so far, only 4 penalties. On Florida State's side, Louisville had 7. The player of the game, obviously, is going to be Deshaun Corbin, 159 yards, touchdown, obviously 75-yard bomb, average 14.5 per carry. And that running game was lethal for Florida State. They also led the game with 205 rushing yards, Louisville 131. So, it just goes to show really bad half, first half just ruined that game for Florida State in order to come back and beat Louisville.
And I'll be honest, I do have some qualms about the early offensive play calling because, you just mentioned the running numbers, Logan. Like whenever Florida State got the ball into Deshaun Corbin's hands, they were pretty much fantastic on offense. And obviously he had a couple huge runs, including the 75-yarder. But the first drive of the game, and you look at, we've talked about the strength of this team is running the ball. The first drive of the game, they come out, throw the ball 3 times, instant 3 and out, punt it back to Louisville. Louisville goes down and I think gets a field goal on that drive. So, I mean, I don't know. I'd really love to see him come out and just try and get something working on the ground. And, instead they went to the air and that didn't work out.
I think, like I said earlier, in the second half, they had a ton of success there. They just got too far behind in the first half to not be able to just rely on the running game. They had to throw it in order to get back into the game. And Florida State's not great there, which kind of segues, I don't know if you want to get on this topic, but let's talk about quarterback play. I've had my druthers of Jordan Travis, and you look at Jordan Travis, and I don't think he's the runner he was last year. I think the injuries have taken their toll. He's still inconsistent as a passer. McKenzie Milton's a great story. Love to see that he's battled back. But he's limited, man. Like, he's hesitant when running the ball. I think he's lost all the velocity he had just with the injury. He short-armed quite a few throws. Is it time to go to Chubba Purdy? Or is Chubba ready to be a full-time starter if you force him in there? Do you stunt his growth? So I think Florida State's got a little bit of a decision to make there because, they're sitting 0-4. If Purdy's even half ready, I think you got to go with him and just, take your lumps. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I mean, the whole reason that McKenzie Milton was brought into this program was to provide success for Florida State this season. He's not going to be around after this year. And guys like Jordan Travis, Chubba Purdy, Tate Rodemaker are. And, 0-4, you're teetering towards a point where, this thing is almost completely lost. And, to get something positive out of it would be to start developing the guys that are going to be contributing to your program for years to come. And that's something that we've hoped Chubba Purdy was going to do ever since he signed with Florida State. So, yeah, you're sitting at 0-4. You're going against the Syracuse team. I think if you drop to 0-5 next week, it's time to go full youth movement, start getting these guys ready because, there's not going to be a lot to play for.
We've seen.
Sorry, Logan. Let's not forget that this is a hand-picked guy from Norvell. This is who he chose in that class, who he flipped late from Louisville. So, at some point, you got to let him out and run and see what you got from him.
Yeah, no, we've been able to see him at practice, and I thought he looks good. And Norvell mentioned on him during after the practice on Tuesday, at least, that he still has those freshman mistakes, and that's understandable. But I'd like to see those mistakes. Let's see him in the game. Let him get that experience. We know we've had a little bit of it last year, but like y'all said, if it goes down to 0-5, it's over. It's kind of already feels that way. Definitely for Florida State fans, it definitely feels that way. But for a youth movement to come in and give Chubba Purdy a chance there, I think is good because you don't know. Jordan Travis, I think, is almost like a one-trick pony a little bit. You don't know what you're going to get throwing sometimes. What you're going to get, though, running the ball. Depends, too, on the play calling. Let's be honest about that, too. But, that offense is hindered with him not able to, be a great passer or a good passer. And then Milton, too. And like Nate mentioned, the velocity just doesn't have that kind of thing that he had at UCF, and that's understandable. The guy went through one of the most catastrophic leg injuries we've seen in a quarterback in college football with his leg. So I think Purdy's looked nice in practice. I'm interested to see if Norvell, Dillingham want to give him a shot moving forward. Next game is going to be Syracuse at home, and we'll see. I think there was still some chances. I think the one thing that you get with Milton that I think Norvell really likes is that he's smart with the ball, and you're not going to see a lot of silly kind of, mistakes with coming from an experienced guy. He's not going to throw these silly throws.
I think he left a lot of yards on the field when he's running, scrambling. Like whether he on one of the, I think it was third quarter where he could have ran straight forward for the first down and he cut it outside, and ended up 3 yards short, or he got tackled by the grass monster. Man, You look at Purdy, and he gives you a little bit of both. The running ability, and he's got a good arm. I know he's not experienced, but let's face facts. This team is 0-4, and you can forget about a bowl game. They had to finish 6-2 to finish the season, and that's not happening.
Yeah. Well,
speaking further on Purdy, I'm just like, what better opportunity than now than to go ahead and let him come out and take his lumps? Because I mean, obviously, there's going to be some growth that we want to see from him. He's not going to come out and be an established option like you would hope, Mackenzie Milton or Jordan Travis would be coming into this season. We're going to see some young mistakes. But, I mean, you're talking about an 0-4 Florida State team that still has some of the best teams on its schedule coming up, So if this is a lost season, go ahead and put him in there. Let him learn now rather than coming into next year not having a ton of experience.
Yeah, you got to find the balance of not hindering his development, but you also have to, at some point, see what you got, especially with AJ Duffy coming in. I think we know what we have with Travis. I think we kind of feel we know what we have with Tate Rodemaker. So give him a shot and see what happens. That's where I'm at.
I think Purdy too. He's quick, fast, and he'd be able to give you those first downs. I don't even think first downs. I think he can make some big gains with his legs. He's fit, fast. Definitely when he's on his rollout, he's quick, and he's looking always to make a throw. He doesn't want to run the ball, and that's kind of the difference with maybe you're hindered with first Milton, maybe not fully there with his leg. That's number one. Then Jordan Travis, he's already has it in his mind to kind of maybe run or so. Trevor Purdy is a mix of both. Milton's he's going to look for a target down the field. We'll see if Mike Norvell and the staff and Dillingham want to give Purdy a chance moving forward. But what are y'all's last thoughts? Florida State's now 0-4 on the season. I don't know. I personally don't. I don't think anybody expected this too much. I don't think we expected the start of this. But Florida State's going to face Syracuse up next at home. And, what is y'all's first initial feelings about that game? Because you got another home game. It's Syracuse, nothing special. But, I think in my opinion, adjustments were made. And I think that's a kind of a curve that I think is going to help Florida State this upcoming weekend in a big way.
Well, I think this team, I don't know what to think, man, to be honest with you. My instant reaction is that, this program's in some trouble in terms of this season, but, you see some improvements here and there along the defensive line. You see some improvements with the offensive line. You see, a game where they finally have not a lot of self-inflicted wounds, a little bit of more situational smartness overall. But this team is 0-4. I think we talked about the worst case scenario would be 2-2 after 4 games. But every game, I think the term must win is over, because must win means that you still have something to play for. And right now they're just playing for respect. And Syracuse comes in, I think, 3-1, but right now, every game is questionable just because of the inconsistency of this team. When the defense starts to play well, the offense can't produce on a consistent basis. If the offense starts to play well, the defense is just a sieve. So, I think that's what we're going to see throughout the duration of this year. I think we're going to see a team that, it's good they didn't quit. They battled back again. So I think you're going to see a team that really does fight. I don't think you're going to lay down, but, this team just hasn't been able to finish. They don't have finishers unless they become a straight up 50 runs a game. And then I think that changes some things. But I don't have a ton of confidence moving on for the rest of the season. So, I do think that they still beat Miami by 75 points. Otherwise, they go 1-11. but hey, well, how do you feel about 2-10 if the W's are Clemson and Miami? Yeah.
I mean, that changes a lot of things, of course.
No, but there's a lot of legitimate concerns about where this program's going right now. But you look at recruiting, they have a lot of good pieces. They got to keep that together. But this team is just, what you're seeing now. We talked about real quick on the before we hopped on. This is just an end result of a program that wasn't bought into football as an administration, where you had a lot of really just poor recruiting evaluations and misses, a lack of development in every aspect on and off the field. This is what you get. So I know it's uncharted territory for, modern Florida State fans. You have the old school people who were around for 74 when they went 0-11, then started 0-8, and before Bobby Bowden. But us modern fans aren't used to this, so this is new for us, and I don't think any of us ever fathomed Florida State being in the spot. But here we are. Nothing we can do about it but support the team, and it's going to take time.
Yeah, and like you said, Nate, it was good. It was good to see Florida State fight back in that second half against Louisville. Obviously, they couldn't get it done, but I mean, it just shows that these guys aren't quitting. But at the same time, that defense, it's got to piece together a 60-minute game, and the same with the offense. You can't put 7 points on the board in the first 28 minutes of the first half and expect to win a football game against a conference opponent. So Florida State, they've got a long way to go, and going into the next weekend, I mean, I'm honestly kind of worried about it. Syracuse pulled out a tough win last night against a pretty damn good Liberty program, and they know what type of Florida State team they're coming into Tallahassee to face, and it's not a very good one. I think they'll be out for blood.
Yeah, it's a vulnerable team right now, and I don't know. You just got to hope to keep it obviously competitive, keep the adjustments up. The defensive side of the ball thing. I mean, that was big for them in this game by far, but you just didn't have enough time to catch up. That was the main thing. And Corbin has a great game. Treshaun Ward is Treshaun Ward, but you got to hope heading into the Syracuse game. 0-5 just doesn't look pretty whatsoever. It doesn't. Just ugly looking. And I can't believe I think it's shocking to a lot of Florida State fans, obviously, but it is just weird to think about 0-5 heading into, or a potential 0-5, but 0-4 heading into October right now. Any last thoughts, guys, on this instant reaction?
I'm done talking about Florida State. I do want to wish my guy Austin Veazey a good recovery from his kidney stone. Feel bad for you.
Yeah, it's miserable, man. It's a like, I wouldn't even wish that on Dabo Swinney, that pain.
Wow.
That is that's hell. So, it just gives him some more time to write about basketball. So, but
yeah, it does.
Yeah.
But hey, Dabo Swinney loses too.
That's great. They're 2-2. Are we seeing them finally get a miss at quarterback?
Yep.
Love to see it.
So can't score like they used to. That's for sure.
Nope.
And Jimbo loses, for all the fans in the comments that aren't fans of Jimbo. Jimbo lost also today. It would have been nice if Florida State came away with the win here. It'd be nice for the fans. They'd have a great Saturday night to celebrate.
They would be tied with Clemson in conference at 1-1.
ACC could be up in competition. Oh God, we got to go now. But yeah, thanks everybody for listening. This was an instant reaction. We'll be live on Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. We might have a guest too, so keep an eye out for that. But Wednesday night 8:30. If you're on YouTube right now, I'd definitely appreciate it if you hit the like button. I know we have a few people that always hit the dislike button because FSU lost, but at least support us. Just hit the like button. I'll definitely appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button if on whatever podcast platform you're listening to right now. We got a lot of articles out right now at NoleGameBait.com. Go check that out. Tons of content there. But other than that, we'll see you in the Discord, patreon.com/NoGameDay. And y'all have a great rest of y'all's weekend, and go Steelers.